So, how to update the firmware of your TiVo Tarantula? There are some misconceptions out there which version of the Arduino IDE you should use, which one doesn't work, and there are also some newbies, I call them. They don't have any experience with microcontrollers as whole and don't have any experience with Arduinos or 3D printers as such. But it's quite an easy process, and you have some advantages over the stock firmware that's already installed. And you can change the parameters. You can change homing speed, traveling speed. You can enable EEPROM, or how it's called, EEPROM. Yeah, that firmware just can use the EEPROM of the Atmega 2560. So you can store some settings, like you can change your PID settings for the hot end or the bed, so that it maybe is more accurate or can heat faster. But in the community firmware, the PID settings are already okay. They are reasonably fast and accurate. And yeah, but you have the option. You can store settings, and that's nice. You can also change other settings. I'm at the moment not so much into it, so I have also to learn about the Marlin firmware a bit more, because it's a huge project and it's extremely complex. So yeah, just enable it so you have the possibility to use it. Maybe not yet, but maybe in the next maybe in the future. And there's also a problem with the stock firmware with the I don't know if it's with all boards or just with mine, but I have with the high baud rate of 250,000 bauds. It's not communicating reliably with my Octopi, so I lowered it. In the stock firmware, it's already lowered, so yeah, there's no problem. You can also invert your motor, mostly the y-axis motor, this one here, right here, because in the instructions in the manual that come with the printer and some videos, some assembly videos, it is mounted like here in the video, on the picture, on the right side, as seen from the front. And the stock firmware, for the stock firmware, that's wrong. So most users just wrap it and mount it on the left side, so here. But yeah, if you know that and you can mount it, yeah, it doesn't matter really. It doesn't matter really. But if you mount it on the left side, you don't have to invert it in the Marlin firmware, and if you mount it on the right side, you have to invert it. And in the community firmware, it's already inverted. So the community firmware as it is, you have to mount the motor on the right side. But if you already mounted it on the left side, you have to change it. But we will go into it. So first things first, you need the Arduino IDE. Maybe you have already a new one installed. The newest one is, I think, yeah, version 1.8.0, but that's not gonna work. And also the newer ones, so 1.6 and above, they don't work. Some videos and some text says it works with 1.65, but it doesn't work. I just use a functional IDE, and that's version 1.0.5. So just download it, and now you can just unpack it. So we will open it and unpack it just in a folder where you find it. And that takes some time. Okay. Now that it is unpacked, we can close this. And now we also need the community firmware. So there are some different ones in the file sections. But they mostly differ on some options, some parameters in the configuration for the large bed or the small bed, or with auto leveling, without auto leveling. So I just show the standard one, so with one extruder, with the small bed, and without auto leveling. I don't know how auto leveling works. I mean, how you can enable it, because I don't have it. And my opinion is you don't need it, but if you need it, you maybe need another one. You can take a look in the file sections, or ask in the group for one with auto leveling. But the configuration and the flashing of the firmware is still be the same. So yeah, you can also learn. So the firmware that I am using, and I think most of the other users, are this one, the version 0.1D. So I will post a link in the video description, also to the Arduino IDE. So we download it and also unpack it. And now we just open the Arduino IDE. It's complaining because I have it on my home server. So I just use another directory. Okay. Unpack it. So now we open it. That's just because I have also a newer version of Arduino installed, and the old IDE can't use the new libraries, but that doesn't matter, because the Marlin firmware doesn't use any libraries, or just the standard ones that will be shipped with the Arduino IDE. So now we have the IDE open. We can open the sketch. So where was it? Yeah, on Tarantula. Here is it. Marlin. And there is a file called marlin.ino. That's the sketch. And that's the whole firmware of your printer. And there are a lot of files. but you just need to change one or two. So the main configuration file is the configuration.h. And if you want to change anything, you don't have to, but you can. There are some options that are nice and know. So right here, that's the part of the name that is displayed if you power up your printer. So with the standard settings, there will be just on the display a Tarantula, a Prusa i3, I think. I've changed it because fun, but yeah. Most settings you don't have to change because in the community firmware they are already changed for the TiVo Tarantula. So all the settings for the temperature sensor and the heater, etc. That's it. You don't have to change it because they are working well. Here you can see the custom PID settings for the hot end. As I said already, they are working great, so you don't have to change it. In the custom firmware, there is already enabled the PID for the heating bed. In the stock firmware, it's not enabled, so it's just turn it on for some time and turn it off for some time. And yeah, with PID you have just a better resolution and a more stable temperature. So with PID, how PID works, it's a big complicated thing, but just short. It measures the temperature distance and the time, how long it was on, I think, and it decides how long it have to stay on and stay off. And if the temperature difference goes smaller and smaller, the heating on and off time are faster. So it's you have just a better resolution and a more stable, and that ends in a more stable temperature of your bed. So yeah, just use it. Yeah, most things you don't have to change. Right here is the y-axis that I talked earlier, if you have the motor on the right side or on the left side. So if you have it on the right side of a scene from the front, you have to invert it. So this parameter has to be true. This parameter has to be true, like here. But if you mounted it on the left side and you're lazy as I am and don't want to change it because why? You have to change it to false. So just change it. The next things are the maximum positions. So if you have a large bed, you just have to change this value. So y max position. I think 280 or so is the big bed, or you can just test it. Yeah, I have actually lowered the value a bit. Just yeah, maybe I will change that later. And after this video, you know how to, and it's just an easy thing, and just as easy as, I don't know, updating your mobile phone or something. Yeah, that you can just read a bit in the configuration file. So here are the speeds for the movement. So this is x-axis, y-axis, z-axis, and extruder, and this is just for the homing. So if you home the printer or the printer homes itself, if you start a print. If you increase the values, it will just it will be faster, but don't use too high rates, because with too high rates, the if you faster the if the stepper motors drive faster, they lose torque. So if they are turning too fast, they might skipping steps, or just can't stop fast enough and crashing into things. So be careful. You can change it a bit, but not too fast, not too great. So leave it or change it with caution. So yeah. But I mean, the TiVo Tarantula is a thing to hack, so why not change it or test it? These are the steps. If you calibrate, or if you want to calibrate your steppers, your axis, this is these are the values, and the extruder is also kind of calibrated. I also wanted to calibrate my extruder for myself, but the value the value from the community. So this one, the stock one is just 100, and the community one is this one. I think it's reasonably okay. I mean, I'm printing right now in the back, so it works. I mean, you can. There are other videos also from Thomas Sandler, strange name, and he is showing how you can calibrate your extruder. So if you want to do that, there is the value that you have to change. So these are acceleration. Just leave it. It's okay. It's reasonably fast. Yeah, the jerk values, I would not change it, so just leave it. Or if you want, you can use it. So here now the additional features, EEPROM settings. That's what I was talking about. In the community firmware, it's already enabled, so you will see in the menu of the printer some new options to store values. So yeah, here are the preheat consents. If you use in the menu the preheat thing, it uses this values. So for PLA 210, 60. Also 210 for the hot end, 60 for the heat bed, and for ABS. You can change these values if you want. So I've changed mine because I have found out that my printer works best with my PLA with 195 degrees Celsius. So I changed it, and also 60 degrees Celsius for the heated bed. So if you want to change them, I think you can change them also on the printer and save it in the EEPROM, but I'm not quite sure, so test it. LCD SD support, that's already enabled. You don't have to change anything. Also a small note, the Marlin firmware runs on, I don't know, 90% of all 3D printers worldwide, so it works on so much different boards and setups, etc., etc. That's why there are so many options. So I think that's most of the oh yeah, the baud rate. The baud rate, here is it. The standard baud rate is 250,000 bauds, but yeah, lower it if you want to use it with the over serial with, I don't know, Repetier host or Octopi or something. It might work. It maybe works with 250,000, but if the baud rate is too low, so something like the standard, or standard quote unquote, 9600, it will be slow because the transmission, the rate, how fast the instructions from the host can transmit it to the microcontroller is maybe too slow. So, but I've found out with 11 150,200, it's fast. It's so fast as the as printing from the SD card. So yeah. The configuration advanced. Yeah, I don't really was into that. I don't looked really at it because they are really advanced options sometimes. So look at it, maybe read the documentation of the Marlin firmware. Yeah, but you don't really have to change anything in here. So the main configuration file is configuration.h. Yeah. And now you have your firmware with some settings you have changed, and you have to test it if it compiles correctly. So that you can do this with this button right here. In English it's called verify. So just click it, and now here, right here is it says it compiles the sketch, and here is a progress bar. It will take some time. Yeah, awkwardly I found out on Windows it takes awful long, and it takes just some, I don't know, 10 seconds or so on Unix-like, or yeah, Unix-like operating systems like Linux or BSD, or how it's called, the hipster OS, Apple thing, OS X. Yeah, I think it has to do with the compiler, and yeah, Windows is awkward, but we just use it. So wait. Okay, now it's done with compiling, and it doesn't throw any errors or warnings or something, so the firmware is okay to flash. And now you have to unplug your printer, so it don't have to run on the own power supply. So just unplug it and plug the USB cable on the board. So the board itself will be powered from your computer or laptop or whatever you use. And because, as I pointed out before, my printer is already printing at the moment, I can't show this on the printer itself, but I have here an Arduino Mega development board, so with the same microprocessor, the Atmega 2560. So it, on the screen it will be this the same messages. So just plug it in. Now you have to change the definition. So you go under tools, board, and use Arduino Mega 2560. And now you have to use the correct serial port. So there is already a COM port 1. That's just because Windows, it always is here. So that's for on older days, this was the first serial port on the computer itself. So I don't know why it is still here, but just ignore it. You want to use the next one, or you have to find it out. So I have only two options, so I know it's COM port 13? 13? Yeah, English. If there are more than one, or you can just unplug your printer, so the USB cable, and now here you can see all the ports. So on my system, it's just COM port 1, and then you can plug it in and take another look. And now there should be the new one for from your printer. You just select it, and now you can upload the complete firmware. So it will be recompile the whole thing. I don't know why Arduino does that if you don't change anything, but yeah, just wait another 1 or 2 minutes. It will also take time, and the upload also is quite slow because it's a rather big file, a rather big binary file. So it will take some time. There are some flashing lights on the board like crazy, so that's when the upload starts. It will also point out on the Arduino IDE if it's uploading. Oh, okay. And unfortunately, my COM port is already in use, and I don't really know why. Okay, I found my my failure. There wasn't the plugin running in the background. Okay, now yeah, just upload it or compile it and upload it. Right here you can see the size of the sketch. So it's 113 kilobyte big, so rather big for a microcontroller. Okay, now the firmware is on it. You can test it or verify it if you open the serial monitor right here in the corner. There will be some weird yeah, stuff, letters. That's because you don't have the right baud rate, so change it to the same baud rate that's in the configuration H. That's 115,200. And now it's reporting some stuff. So the standards, the factory settings, so the settings that are in the firmware. And yeah, my Arduino board is failing because there is anything to initialization. It's a dumb word. So yeah, and it throws some error because there are any temperature sensors or something. But on yours, these 3 lines will not appear if all works correctly, and it will constantly output some status messages. So now you're ready to print again with your newly updated and better firmware. There is a possibility to break break is a harsh word. Just be careful on the uploading process. So if you upload the sketch, don't unplug anything. Just leave it until it's done. It can corrupt the bootloader if the uploading is interrupted. Mostly it will not corrupt it, but there is a possibility. And if this happens, your board is not unusable. You just can't upload the firmware. You can just retry it, and if it fails, you have to re-upload the bootloader, but for this you need one of two things: another Arduino that you can use as programmer, or a dedicated programmer. Just to mention that, if you have an Arduino, just search for some videos about uploading or burning bootloader with another Arduino or something like that, and then you have to burn the bootloader right here and use select your programmer that you are using. And if you use an Arduino as ISP, so ISP stands for In-System Programmer, yeah, you have to upload the sketch for that. I think it's somewhere around here. Yeah, here, Arduino ISP on examples. And then you have to wire it up, but that you can also read on some pages, and there are some videos about that. So yeah, I don't will show it here. So the video is long enough. I also have to cut it. So I hope you have some fun with your new firmware.